ABC Radio Hobart with Lucy Braden.
So TV began this week in Hobart in 1960. 60 years ago. I want to hear your TV memories. This may help to re-jog it just a little bit.
Since we opened in May 1960, progress has been the key word, and progress we have. More and more local live shows have been added to programme schedules. Women's session, 3 afternoons weekly, 4 hours of live entertainment for children each week, panel discussions, talent shows, variety half hours, and more than 2.5 hours of sporting programmes. We're proud of the lineup of top-rating film series and the selection of more than 2,000 feature films. Wherever possible, we fly top mainland television personalities to Hobart to establish closer personal contact with our viewers.
Heartaches and sad dreams chase away the moonbeams, memories that make me so blue.
Did that bring back some memories for you? Maybe just hearing that voice. Southern Tasmania got its very own TV station on May 23rd, 1960. Then known as TVT6, now known as WIN TV. A lot has changed over the years, but Craig Farrell is a TV veteran. I should say TVT6 veteran and Labor member for Derwent as well. Hello, Craig.
Good afternoon, Lucy. Nice to be back with you.
Yeah, you too. Is it nice to be a little nostalgic at the moment and kind of remember those wonderful memories from yesteryear?
Absolutely it is. And it was really nice. And listening to, the very authoritarian voice of Ray Sherry, one of your predecessors, he was the newsreader at TVT6. He'd gone by the time I started because I wasn't born until a little bit into the 60s. So I wasn't there for the opening, but my career there started shortly after the 21st birthday of TVT6.
And what happened? What can you tell us about that moment?
Well, look, there were so many wonderful moments in, the history of TVT6. And I think even for people like myself that came along in the colour generation, there'd already been such a strong history of TVT6 right back through to the start of the station. And when I started in the early 1980s, some of the original 1960s employees were still there, and the whole station had just rolled on from the 1960s through the colour, and we'd got into eventually stereo television, and then ended up with digital, and gone through the whole aggregation process, which I still feel is probably the thing that killed off the local television industry. It was a wonderful industry, and to have the chance as a small kid from the back blocks to work in a TV station was just amazing. And I feel really sorry for the kids today that they don't have that opportunity. Every time I drive past the old Newtown Road studios, just so many memories come flooding back, because the place was chock-a-block full of personalities, not just on-air personalities, but like everyone there was like a character. It was it was like working every day of your life in the school production. It was fantastic. Yeah.
And it's such a big building as well, that Newtown building where WIN TV used to be, TVT6. It was, it felt like it wasn't, but it felt like a few kilometres long just to walk from like the newsroom down to the TV station and then back again. And what were you doing when you first started in TV? What was your role?
Well, when I first started, and what they used to do at TVT6, so you could get an idea of how the whole station worked, unless you were a qualified technician or had a particular training. Generally, if you wanted to work in the studio, become a cameraman or whatever, you started in dispatch, and dispatch was basically the delivery person for the station. So you'd get the groceries for the canteen of every morning. You'd go to TAA depot and pick up the the films and the videotapes that came in and take them back. You'll do the banking at lunchtime. So you've got to meet everyone in the station. You'll be dealing with the administrative people and the production people, and of course the ladies in the canteen. We had a canteen there with 3 staff. Mrs. Stan, her name was Stankovic. She was a Polish lady, but we called her Mrs. Stan, obviously, because it was a long name. And Gladys and Jean, who were sisters, and they worked there making sandwiches and milkshakes and whatever. We had like the hub of the station was the canteen. So at morning tea and lunchtime, people would sit around the tables in this little room and talk about all sorts of things, usually television things. It was a real city within a building. Had people would come from all over parts of the building that you wouldn't see because they were tucked away up in traffic or in the film department or the newsroom or down in the depths of videotape where the odd ones worked. They weren't antisocial people, but they were kept down in the guts of the building and worked with all these videotape machines and so we all got together. Actually, we're all very social. It was a really social place. In fact, a lot of the technical staff ended up marrying the girls from the film department. So there was a very healthy social atmosphere at the old TVT6.
Well, it certainly sounds that way. TV veteran Craig Farrell is my guest, 4:26. I want to hear your memories of maybe when Tassie got its first TV. I keep going to say TVT. I can't shake that.
Yeah.
When we got our very first TV station here in southern Tasmania, Mike at Kingston says, I remember very vividly when TV first came out. We lived at Claremont and was one of the first to get TV in our neighbourhood. I was only 9 years old and had that many old and new friends knocking on the front door to come in and see the TV. I bet you did, Mike. It sounds like it was a very exciting time. Craig, what are your early memories of television growing up?
I think the big thing, you were set around the TV. TV was sort of central, as was the wireless in my parents' generation. TV had taken that place, and nowadays, of course, there's many forms of media, but TV was you'd sort of almost set your evening up around the TV. You'd have your favourite programs to watch. You'd watch the news, of course. The time that colour came in 1975 was what I can remember, because that was like TV starting all over again, where Mike can remember the start of TV. I can't remember that, but I can remember when colour came, and my grandparents had one of the early colour TVs, so everyone would gather there, and I can remember people say, they'd watch the horse racing, not because they liked horse racing particularly, but they could see the turf fly up, and they'd say, look, you can see the turf flying off them. And it was, just colour pictures in your lounge room was a huge thing. It just brought a whole new life to television and brought a whole lot of technical things like, chroma key. You could do some pretty magic stuff, and people would sit at home thinking, gee, I wonder how the weather map dropped out of the sky like that. But it's all, pretty much taken for granted now. But it was a big thing. The colour television era was a huge change.
And we didn't have remotes. You'd have to actually go up to the TV and turn the nozzle just to try and find the right channel.
Yes, you'd have to click it round. They were usually fairly clunky things, channel changes, though I do remember a family I knew that were a bit flash, and they had, I think it was an Astor television, and it had a remote on a cable. So it had a cable that came out, and you could, and a big knob on a block, and you could turn your channel over with your portable knob block. So
awesome.
You'd sit it on where your cup holder was on your old couch, and you could flick your telly over. But of course, back then you had the choice of a commercial and the ABC. So you had to turn a long way around the dial to go from one to the other. But nowadays we just have lots and lots and lots of
unlimited
TV stations.
And tell us about Boss Poss. Explain this show for our listeners who may not remember.
Well, local production to all TV stations was a really important thing, and ever since TV started, there've been, there were the ladies' shows in the afternoon and the sports shows, and the kids' shows were always something that TVT6 produced quite a lot of kids' shows. Particularly later on, they produced national ones with KTV, and people like Tony Fox had a lot to do with producing national programs. But right from the start, they always had Coco the Clown and different characters that would come on. Some were sponsored shows for particular products, but generally they were just ways of linking cartoons. And Boss Poss was sort of the last children's television show that I was involved with, because aggregation killed that off. It was just easier to get the network programming and stop the local production. But it started off for me when I was moved out of dispatch and into the audio control room, and this young fella called Jim Shoes, that wasn't his real name, came and auditioned, and he had this puppet called Spot the Dog. And we had this wonderful thing called TV Pow that was sweeping the world at the time, where kids would phone in on a Saturday morning, and we had this very clever device that you'd plug in through the phone system. So Space Invaders type program would come on your TV screen, and kids would sit in their lounge room. They'd go pow. They didn't have to go pow, but it was a voice-activated switch, and it shot a missile at a... It was all very friendly and peace-loving back then. A missile, and it would explode on your TV, and the idea was to get the highest score. And, quite often, being voice-activated, if a kid sometimes fired the missile, would say pow, but if they missed, they might say another word, being a bit disgruntled. And, of course, that would fire another missile. So we started off with that, and because of the budget, things are tight in television, I think, all the time, particularly in commercial regional stations. But we had this TV Power going, and we had the dog and the host. But Mr. Carter, who was our station manager, lovely man, Don Carter, was always very careful with the expenditure. And we're allowed to have one cameraman, a director, an audio guy, and we didn't have a floor manager. So a floor manager is sort of fairly vital connection between the control room and the studio floor. So we invented a character called Rex the Robot that was made out of a polystyrene wig holder and a cardboard box initially. And through the audio room, I would speak into a microphone through an old-fashioned analogue delay unit that would make a robot voice. So that allowed a different voice, and it also stopped any feedback through the control room. So it was we thought it was pretty clever at the time. So when they'd say, "Oh, what are we doing now? We're going to a cartoon, or what's the next cartoon?" Because they'd forget, because they were musicians. They'd usually perform the night before until the early hours of the morning and rock straight up to the studio. So we managed it through this Rex the Robot character that was later rebuilt from a polystyrene head and a box into a very swish plywood model built by Bruce Woods, who was one of our amazing technicians that could just build anything out of anything. And Rex the Robot went on for some time, and that show came to an end. And then a local radio presenter from 7HT, I think at the time, Cameron Humphreys, did a program called Coming Up Next, and I did a character called Juggles, which was a puppet, once again made out of polystyrene and sticks. And that character then, at the end of that, it went on to Cartoon Company, and that's where Boss Poss came in. And originally a lady called Julia, who's still around, she was the host, and we had this sort of oversized glove puppet that I stuck my hand up and I sat under a desk and did that puppet. And then I had my glory of becoming an on-air presenter when they decided they wanted to use a full suit Boss Poss, and the suit they got was too small for me to fit into.
No
They said, "Oh, well, you be the host, and we'll get someone skinnier to go into the suit." So that's how that
perfect.
happened.
It worked out well. Oh, well, it sounds like these memories are very, very clearly etched in your mind, Craig, and we really appreciate taking the time to talk through them and just, relive some of them again. It sounds really nice, and a time when TV production was very healthy in Tasmania.
Wonderful. Yeah, look, there are so many stories out there. Like, I'm just one person. There are some people out there with wonderful, wonderful stories about TVT6, and you could do a radio show that would go on forever, I think.
I bet.
Got them all talking. So.
Well, if you are listening and you are one of those people, give us a call, share your memories, 1300 222 936. Craig, we have to leave it there, but thank you for having a chat.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's always enjoyable, Lucy.
Appreciate it. Craig Farrell there, MLC, Labor MLC for Derwent and TV veteran as well. Rick in Hobart says Coco's Corner was fantastic with Uncle John and Charlie the Puppet. And Rog says Coco the Clown at TVT6 rocked my world. 1300 222 936 if you want to get involved. Share your memories. Or 0438 922 936. One texter says, don't forget Boss Poss is still on TV on Hook, Line and Sinker. There you go. Oh, I'm loving these memories coming through. It's at 24 to 5.